Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Coming Down the 5E Pike. My name is Chris Doyle. I am the Director of Development and Design for the 5E side of the house at Goodman Games. And a little bit different format tonight. I'm going to jump in with my first guest who's already here and flexing and getting ready. I would like to introduce somebody who needs no introduction, the troll with the most. That doesn't rhyme, but anyway, Grimtooth himself. Grimtooth, how are you
All
doing
right,
today?
all right. You would start off strong there, and you kind of trailed off in the middle, and the less we say about the end, the better. But I'm glad to be here with you
Excellent.
tonight on
And
what's the show called? Oh yeah, the 5E Pike coming down.
yes, pikes. You should
Yes,
know a lot about pikes, those pointy things that hurt people. That's the
I
kind of
do know
pike
a
we're
lot
talking
about
about.
pikes. All right, you're
Yep.
right.
Yep, that is true. Do you still have your other special guest with you today that we can introduce to everybody, or did it run
Oh
away?
yes, I do. I do. I have right here uh very special Grim Cat.
All
Here,
right.
I've been hanging out with him today. It's been a slow evening here at Grimtooth Manor. And so me and Grimcat have just been hanging out and, chilling.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, well, it's the colder weather's coming, so this is definitely time for chilling.
It's true.
Um, All right, so Grimtooth, I want to pull the curtain back a little bit and maybe show the viewers your softer side a little bit if there is a softer side. Maybe let them get to know you a little bit by just maybe asking a couple of questions. Just kind of get to know who the man is, who the troll is, who's behind all of these amazing traps. So here's my first question:
All right.
what is your favorite type of trap? What trap really makes you excited?
Oh, what's that's a tough one. My favorite trap is probably the one that gives you the most trauma. You may have survived it, but you wake up at night screaming, thinking about it, how horrible it was. And it probably brings back bad memories, like thinking
Mm.
about all the loved ones that died along with you, but you're the survivor. So you got survivor's guilt. That's my favorite type of trap. And that could be any of them as long as it makes that happen.
Wow, and you said that you like the ones that cause the most trauma. I instantly went to blunt force trauma, and you
No,
went
no,
totally a
mental
different
trauma,
way.
mental.
You went to the mental anguish
Yeah,
trauma,
yeah,
which
yeah.
is
You
a
wanted the
totally different
soft
way.
side, and I'm giving you the soft side because ain't nothing softer than some brain matter. You know what I'm saying? And that's where all the
Yeah,
mental facilities are.
especially when it falls out of the brain cavity there, then it's definitely soft and gushy. All right. This is a very important question. A lot of folks want to know this. If anybody in the chat has a specific question for Grimtooth, this is the
Yeah,
time,
yeah,
man.
bring
This
it
is the
on.
time. So who annoys you more, paladins or bards?
Ooh, that's another tough one. Um, I'm gonna have to say, uh, the paladins. They're so virtuous, and they're just they're lawful. They're on the whole other side of the spectrum as far as alignment
Yeah,
goes.
yeah.
Bards, they're just clowns without the makeup on. So that's I can understand that. We all gotta have a clown in our life. And the bard can be it. The paladins, ooh, they just get me my blood boiling. I'll tell you what.
Oh, excellent. All right. So now this, I am going to ask you to kind of show your soft side a little bit on this one. This is a very important question.
All right, I'll get my
We got
pants
the,
down.
okay. No, that's okay. No,
Oh,
no, no, no.
oh,
Do it not that. So,
oh, okay.
guys, I thought you had those buns of steel. Anyway, that's a trap name right there. Okay. So what is, we got the holidays coming up, Grimtooth. Where is your favorite vacation spot to go and relax
Oh,
and unwind and just kind of, not have to worry about designing traps or killing PCs?
City of Brass. It starts
Oh,
getting cold. I want to go to the City of Brass. It's warm. I'll tell you that.
yeah.
And
The beaches.
they usually have a nice little room for me that overlooks the Lake of Fire. And they know I'm coming. They got it set up, roll out the red carpet, all that sort of jazz. And so
Oh,
that's where I like to relax, right on the balcony overlooking the lake and listening to the wailing of the souls.
Nice. Yes, most of them that were fell victim to your traps, then no doubt.
Most of them,
So
yeah, yeah. I recognize a few.
yeah,
They
yeah.
don't recognize me anymore because their eyes are all burnt out, but
Well,
that's
yeah,
what
that's
happens.
very true. So, oh, well, that's great. Well, Grimtooth, thank you very much. I know you have another show coming at the top of the hour, so
That's right. It's
I
Trap Thursday.
yep, just like Taco Tuesday, only on a Thursday and with more blood. So,
That's right.
yeah, so looking forward to it. So, we're gonna let you go. We are gonna be right back, folks, and we have a word from our sponsor we'd like to listen to. And when we come back, I'm gonna give you all the updates on all of our 5E projects that are coming down the pike. Thank you so much, Grimtooth.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, it's me, Grimtooth, and I hope you're ready for a brand new book. We got all 150 of these traps statted up and ready to go, both in 5th edition and DCC RPG. Haha, yeah. Now, I know you don't want to miss out on this action, That's why I put this code up for you to scan. It'll take you straight to the back of kit page, and you can be notified on launch day. And then, oh buddy, you better believe we're gonna have some treats for you that day. Yeah. Now, don't delay, scan this code, or else I'm gonna get angry!
All right, and I am back. I hope you guys enjoyed those words from our sponsors there. You can never have too much Grimtooth, in my opinion. So, all right, so let's talk about a couple of things, get updates on where we're sitting with some of the very large projects on the 5e side of the house that we've been working on. The first thing I'll talk about is Dark Tower, and I get it, guys, and folks and fans out there. We are behind on Dark Tower. It's obviously running late. We understand your frustrations with that, but 600 pages, three hardcover books, slipcover, and then times that by two because there's a DCC version and a 5e version. That's a pretty big project. So, but I am happy to report that it is off to the printer. And we're working on a couple little specs on the covers and the slipcover design and everything. But that one is off, and it's going to be printed very, very soon. We'll get those advanced copies. We'll check them over. We'll make sure they're good. They'll do the full print run. Then it'll go on a slow boat to China. Everybody knows from China. Who knows how that goes? So that's where we're with that. I do want to share a couple of covers. In addition to the big slipcases, we have a couple of supplementary books that are also coming out. The first one is the Dark Tower themed 5th edition fantasy adventure, and that's the 7 Days of the Serpent God. And Elena, if you can throw up the cover on that one. So this is basically it's a standalone adventure. It's set in what we like to call the Dark Tower universe, or the Janela-verse, as we like to call it. And it's kind of a prequel of sorts. Dark Tower starts at 7th level. This is for 5th level, 6th level. So this is basically, kind of whet your appetite, kind of warm yourself up before you jump into the whole 3 hardcover experience. So we've got that coming. That is also at the printer. So that is going to be available as a PDF to all backers. And then if you want to add a physical copy of it, you'll be able to do that if you haven't already in the backer kit part of the campaign. And I think Jib Cutter has joined in. So how's it going, Jib? The second book, and you can pop up that second image, is Monsters and Magic of Dark Tower. So we did Monsters and Magic for Lankmar last year. Basically, it's just a short little skinny book that has a bunch of extra monsters and a bunch of extra magic items and spells that are kind of themed to Dark Tower in this case. And you can see that wonderful Doug Kovacs artwork there. So we have a version of this book in both 5e and DCC. This is off to the printer as well. So, there's a lot of moving parts on this project. We are very excited that it is 99.6% of the way behind us at this point, and we're moving on to other things. So, there's your Dark Tower update. The next thing I want to talk about is the adventure module manuals, which are now called something completely different. They are now called the Compendium of Dungeon Crawls. Volume 1 and Volume 2 are also off to the printer. So we did an Indiegogo campaign for these earlier this year. And I'm happy to report that both of these hardcover books are off to the printer. We can show up cover volume number 1. And I love that artwork. That is David Griffith. That is Dracusa, which is the Medusa from FEF number 5. So volume 1 is a compilation of FEFs number 1 through 7. And volume number 2 is a compilation of FEFs number 8 through 15. And then coming soon, we're going to be crowdfunding volumes 3 and 4, also in the hardcover packaging and everything. So those are also off to the printer and ready to go. So those are going to be coming soon, hopefully. So and our last update for today, because I want to get to our special guest, which we do have coming up in a bit. I want to talk about Dungeon Denizens. So that one we're still working on pretty hard. So I believe we had a delivery date of June for this one. So far, we are still tracking for that. But you know, it's going to be a little tricky. So, but we are very excited where we're at. The layout of the DCC book is very, very far along. The layout of the 5e book is getting there. I want to show a couple of sample pictures. If you can throw up sample page number 5, that is the child of Bobilts. I think I might have not pronounced that right, and the chitterling. So folks, these are not completely done pieces yet. You'll actually see when we get to a later one. It's actually going to say could not fit sidebar. So they're definitely not final, but they're getting close. Basically, we got to start getting them into the format and kind of hammering them into the format, and then we got to say, do we like it? Do we not like it? How do we want to do it? There's a couple of placeholders on that. There's going to be artwork at the top where you see those black kind of lines. Those kind of almost like tentacles, sort of. That's just a placeholder right now. We're still trying to figure out where we want the letter and the chapter beginning letters to go. So we can expect those to probably move around and everything. But this is probably a good feel for what the 5e book is going to look like. And the next one, if you can pull up sample number 6, this is the Contractor Devil. This is kind of cool because this kind of shows you how some of our monsters were long enough where we actually are going to spill over and make them a spread of like a 2-page spread. And this one fits really nicely. It's got that really big table where you can do some random dice rolls to determine the contract that the devil has out on it and who he's trying to collect on. So so pretty excited on that. And again, amazing artwork. So hopefully you guys are liking the looks of these. I see a couple of those. So yeah, the next thing I want to just mention on Dungeon Denizens is so we're doing the Dungeon Delves. So that is the softcover book of the little short 2-page adventures. And that is been fully developed. It's fully written, fully developed, and it is moving along through artwork and editing right now. So artwork and cartography right now. We're just starting to get some of those initial images back in and starting to check those over and approve those. Starting to do at a meeting earlier today with our art director and I'd go over a bunch of questions on the maps. So we are moving full head on those. The editor has it. The editor has a couple more weeks to go before we get that back. Then that will go into layout. So you know that might come a little bit later than when we send all the main books, but that book is chugging along as well. And then the last thing I want to give an update on is the GM screen. So so we actually have a GM screen for this one. And on the DCC side, they're actually doing something really cool. They're actually including tables on how to kind of make the monsters more DCC specific and kind of make them weird and things like that. And then for the 5e side, I was going to put in the tables of the CRs and the terrains and stuff like that, which to be honest with you, kind of sounded pretty boring. So we've come up with what we think is a slightly better idea on this. So our editor extraordinaire, Ben, who has been working on this project literally for years, kind of pitched the idea of what he's calling like these little quick templates. And basically, if you remember in 3rd edition, there were these templates where you could basically take an orc and then add like a fireborn template to it or whatever, and basically make it a fire orc. But it was actually a pretty complicated process, and you actually had to go through almost every line of the stat box and kind of fiddle with things and kind of make it. And it was almost like designing a brand new creature. Well, we're going to come up with these, what we call these little quick template ideas, where basically we're at the game table. If you need to adjust an encounter on the fly, because let's just say maybe the party is really doing a great job And this NPC or this monster that they're fighting, it's not going to be lasting very much longer. Do you want them to last a little bit longer? Well, there are these templates where you can add a little wrinkle to them. You can make them a brute, or you can make them a boss monster. And I'm talking a couple things where it's basically like you tweak the AC, give them some more hit points and one or two abilities, something where you could kind of just glance down at your screen and be like, yeah, I can just add that right now, and it's going to make the encounter better, and it's going to be more useful. So I'm very excited about this, and I think it's going to make the GM screen be a lot more useful. So we've got those in development right now. And now it's just a matter of how many of them can we cram onto the inside of the screen to make this as useful as possible. So very, very excited about the development there. So I'm looking for questions. If we did not participate in those adventure crowdfundings that available today, yes, there will be a slight delay. We're going to get those compendium of dungeon crawls out to the backers first, and then yes, they will be available in our online store, and at stores through distribution, and also at conventions. So you'll get them. Probably be a little bit of a delay on that, like typical, but it shouldn't be too much of a delay. So thanks for that question, Max Sterling. Max Sterling 89. So that is all that I have for my updates. So we are going to get to an interview with David Michael Williams, who's coming up next. So we will be back in a very, very brief moment this time. No commercials, I promise. All right, we're back. Like I said, I promised no commercials. And it is my pleasure to welcome to the show David Michael Williams. David is amazing. He's been working with us for a couple of years now. And he always brings a smile to my face because he's always got a smile on his face. He's got that Midwestern charm. So David, say hello to everybody.
Hello, everyone. I want to just,
Perfect.
can we put in a little gleam in my smile? Just to...
Exactly. We'll do that in post. We'll do that in
Thank you.
post.
Thank
We'll
you.
put it up on YouTube. We'll make that. We'll add sparklies and all kinds of good things.
Nice.
So David, before we get into the nuts and bolts and some of the projects that you've worked on the 5e side for Goodman Games, I just want to let people get a little bit. I want to pull that curtain back and let them see the softer side of you, and just ask a couple of general questions for you, just so that folks can get to know you, break the ice, etc., and everything.
Sure.
My first question is, when did you start tabletop gaming?
So some might consider me a newbie, but I like to say that I've been D&D adjacent since I was 14.
Okay.
Didn't really know anyone who played. Tried Advanced Dungeons and Dragons with a younger cousin. We couldn't figure it out, and no one else really was interested. So I contented myself with, I'd get the monstrous manual and I just kind of paged through the numbers, meant nothing, but I loved the lore and the art, and gorged myself on more than 100 Dragonlance novels, and then, Forgotten Realms and all that shared world fiction that was born of the TTRPGs. So I met, Weiss and Hickman and some of those people back when Gen Con was still held in Milwaukee.
Yes.
Had kind of a pre-Gen Con party that I somehow weaseled my way into and got an invite. So I always just kind of felt like I was on the fringe, and it wasn't until 2019, so about 4 years ago, that I started my first official campaign, joined the Lost Mine of Phandelver, a good kind of starter campaign, and basically have been hooked on 5th edition ever since. I was playing 3 campaigns at once a few months ago. Now I'm down to 2. But yeah, it kind of just owns me now, and I love playing. I love GMing. I love creating, the content for them. Used to be homebrewing, now it's homebrewing and freelancing, so just fully immersed.
Cool. Excellent. So you talked a lot about D&D there. Do you have a favorite non-D&D tabletop system that you've played?
I've tried a few here and there. The one that I really was looking forward to trying and enjoyed, I did a one shot in Shadowrun. I just think the setting itself is just incredibly creative, and just so that one I think has been. There's also Symborum was a really interesting one, had a very old school feel to it. So yeah, I like tinkering around and seeing how how other systems handle some of that common scenarios and variables.
Cool. Awesome. When did you start professionally working in the industry?
It would have been about what 3 years ago when I responded to Goodman Games open
Oh,
call. You guys were
okay.
looking for writers and editors, and I write more traditional fiction, novels, fantasy, and that kind of stuff. So I had a lot of experience with that, but not so much the more kind of technical writing side of things that you need for game writing. So yeah, that was my first project was Dungeon Denizens, and um, worked on a heap of other stuff kind of since then. But yeah, Goodman Games was kind of my first opportunity here, and I'm
Cool.
happy to say I'm still chugging along.
Yeah. So, in addition to, so obviously you worked on Dungeon Denizens. Is there anything else that you're allowed to talk about
Sure.
that you worked on for us?
Yeah, kind of some odds and ends on the editing side of things. Secret of the Slayer's Sword, which
Mhm.
is in the 2022 yearbook that came out recently. Crypt of the Devil Lich Designer Diaries. You'd
Yes, I love
mentioned,
that.
Monsters and Magic of Dark Tower earlier on the
Mhm.
program. Um, a fifth edition fantasy that you wrote, The Denizens of the Reed Maze. I got to edit that one.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, a lot of editing here and there, and then kind of also straddling the writing side of things. I wrote four of Dungeon Delves that I'm really excited about. And Grimtooths, which you've talked about just before, and he'll be coming on
Yep.
again later. So I got to write some traps for that one. And then yeah, I contributed. I also I had one writer credit on the Dungeon Denizens as well with my consuming coin. So
Yes, we're
kind
gonna get
of
into those. We're gonna
yeah,
dive
yeah.
into those a little bit deeper.
So
So,
it's a lot of fun kind of straddling both because even with the traps, like I wrote my own, but then I was asked to help edit some other people. So
yep.
it's like, get to do a little of both, and both are fun for different reasons.
Yeah, and that versatility, I'll take that versatility all the time. I mean, it's kind of like having that switch hitter on the bench there, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, David can do both. He can edit and he can also design. So,
Yeah.
and
Where do
no,
you need me? Put me in,
yes,
coach. Where do you need
put
me?
him in, and we will. And you guys are gonna see some more stuff from David too. We've got him doing some other things, exciting things too that we're not quite ready to announce yet, but we got so many cool things going on that all will be revealed. Next year should be a pretty big year for revealing, I'm thinking. I'm hoping. I'm hoping. All right, let's just have some fun asking just some random questions here. What is your favorite, since you worked on Dungeon Denizens, what is your favorite classic D&D monster?
It might be blasphemy to say it, but dragons aren't really my bag. Like
Ooh,
I think just probably because they're everywhere. So it takes something really outside the norm to get me excited about them. So when I thought about this, I thought of other iconic D&D creatures and maybe something that wasn't quite so, entrenched in Tolkien literature. I love the Mind Flayers. I think they are
yes.
so alien, but really rounded out in a way that makes them understandable.
Mhm.
So I think and just genuinely creepy. So I think for me those are probably some of my favorite monsters, and I've yet to fight one in a game. So the day it
Ooh,
happens, I'll be both terrified and
and
and super happy to see one show up and see
yeah.
if I can take it out.
I haven't actually fought many of them either. So this is the things like I remember my first fight with a beholder, and it did
Yeah.
actually. It was as advertised, man. Those I beams coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of
That
those things. You love the beholder and everything. You get into a combat with, you're like, wow, these things are really terrifying. I mean, so
Yeah, the Beholder's a good runner up for faves, and I've only fought an undead one, so I kind of fought a
okay,
Beholder light, and that
yes,
we
yep.
still almost had lost two party members and got out by the skin of our teeth. So
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
those are great.
All right, so the next question, what is your three favorite movies? And this is a little tricky. Movies are tough because you can be all over the board on this one, but the movie that if you're surfing around the TV or whatever and the movie's on, you get sucked in and you got
Sure.
to watch the rest of it.
So an enduring favorite of mine is Fight Club. To this day,
Okay.
just the mind, the way it messes with one's
And you speak
mind.
about it? You speak about it?
I do. I risk the ire of Project Mayhem. No, that one's just my kids are now growing, so it's kind of fun to rewatch and rediscover some of these movies and just
Mhm.
the looks on my kids' faces during that one. It's like, yeah, this movie is messed up. Uh, and then kind of a new one that also is, messes with one's mind is Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Oh, it's on my list. I
And
still have not seen it yet, but I cannot wait to see it.
I feel like I watched it like twice within maybe a day in between, and it was just like, no, I gotta go back for more.
Nice.
The absurdity, the meta, like yeah, it kind of falls into that dream punk genre that I like, where it's like you don't know what to believe, you don't know whom to trust. I love it.
Cool.
And thirdly, I gotta give a shout out to the recent Dungeons and Dragons movie
All
because
right.
Honor
Yeah.
Among Thieves delivered.
Yeah.
It was a whole lot of fun, and
Yeah.
it breaks my heart that apparently it did not do well at the box office, which puts perhaps sequels in jeopardy. But
Yeah.
it's just fun. It
Yeah.
was a really
It
good
was just a
adventure.
great movie to go see in a theater and kick back and just have it's what theater going and movies should really be about, is kind of like it is. It's like it's just totally silly. I saw the movie RRR not too long ago, which is a very
Mm,
acquired taste. Um and it is just a phenomenal movie. You don't take it seriously at times, but you just sit back and you just enjoy. And
yeah.
that is exactly it. It's a lot of good movies like that. So that three excellent choices. Three absolutely.
Thanks.
Max Sterling, 89. He threw out Conan the Barbarian on there.
Old
A good
school.
classic.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Those are fun as well.
without a doubt. All right. What is your favorite food? We're talking comfort foods with you back in out in the Midwest. What could this be? I'm guessing there's going to be cheese involved. So
Yeah, well, there is. There is. I suppose I should say something like a casserole of some kind or hot dish or whatever people call it. But
it's a hot dish. That's what you guys call it out in the Midwest.
some do. We never
Yeah.
did. We were a casserole family, but I gotta just go with kind of boring old pizza, like
Okay.
thin crust pepperoni and black olive, like that.
Oh
I could
yes.
pretty much eat that every day.
Wow. I'm black olives and mushrooms, and
Ah,
but yeah,
okay.
but yes, but I love the black olives for some reason go really great on a pizza. I agree
I
with you on
don't
that.
like them anywhere else.
But on a pizza,
Only
yeah,
on a pizza with whether it's a supreme or just with pepperoni. It's the
yeah,
flavor, yeah, that complements the sauce. Yeah. Now
nice.
I'm hungry. Now I'm hungry.
All right. So this is an odd question, but we're gonna get this. This is the question where I ask you. I can tell exactly what type of person you are by asking this question. What is your favorite Muppet? And this is gonna reveal your soul basically to all the viewers
Yeah.
right now.
It I struggled coming up because I feel like who I still love is like who I loved as a kid, and maybe it'll reveal the soul of younger me. But I always loved Ralph the dog. I don't.
Oh,
He
I
he
did
was
not think that.
Yeah, he was he was talented. He was a musician. He was pretty chill compared to some of the other ones. Like
Uh,
he just seemed like a cool dude. I liked, and I wasn't even like a dog person as a kid. I am now, but yeah, Ralph the dog. I gotta stick with my Ralph.
All right, that's awesome. I would not have pegged you for a Ralph the dog, I have to
What
admit.
would you have
So.
given? What would you have thought?
I was actually thinking Gonzo. I mean, every time I talk to you, even your emails, David, I just feel like I don't know. I feel uplifted by you, and I'm like, and Gonzo does that for me. Gonzo's
All
the type
right.
who always makes me. There was that movie though where they really kind of added some deep levels to Gonzo, and I'm not sure I was happy with that.
We don't want
So
to peer into the psyche of the blue weirdo. Like let's
no, not
no,
at all, man.
I think I got some Gonzo in my blood, so I take that as a
Awesome.
compliment.
Yeah, but I myself though, I'm a Beaker guy.
Oh
So
man, Beaker and Honeydew like as a
yeah,
combo, yeah, that
yeah.
I considered them in my answer as well. It's hard to pick one. Let's
It
be honest.
is. It is. So it's a great show. That was a great show. Okay, last question before we get on to some of the nuts and bolts. If you could have dinner or an extended conversation with any one person, living or not living, who would it be and why?
They say never meet your heroes, but I think I'd be safe. I'm a big fan of the literature of William Faulkner. I feel like
Oh,
the guy was a world builder outside of the
mhm.
fantasy genre. He writes novels like puzzles to solve, so I really geek out and try to incorporate
Yeah.
that in my own fiction. And he seemed very down to earth. Like the guy knew he needed to make money at this, arranging of letters on a page kind of thing. So I feel like he'd be a guy to really be fun just to chew the fat with and say like, all right, what was it like? Or, how did you come up with this idea, etc.
Awesome. That's a great answer. I love it. I love that question. I get such awesome responses in that question. I'm just gonna keep asking it. Cool. All right, so we are here to talk about some of the projects that you've worked on for us. So let's go back to Dungeon Denizens. And like I said, you were on the originally you were on the editing team for that. So
Mhm.
what was that like, kind of? And obviously that was your first kind of get go with this and everything. And it was crazy. We had a lot of people designing monsters. We had three editors. We had Ben, we had you, we had Bill. So what was that kind of like, kind of being on the editorial team and everything? And it was all brand new for us too. We were not really used to working with teams at that point. This was all brand new on so many fronts. So give us some insights there.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun first and foremost. But because it is so much stat blocks, it was kind of a baptism by fire. Like that's the crunchy
Yeah,
stuff. Like
yeah,
I'm one of those weird writers who also loves math, so I really got to tap into, left brain kind of stuff. So I geeked out on that. But yeah, it really was like, wow, this is I really got to focus and do some math here and make sure everything's consistent. But what I really loved about the team aspect of it is so much writing and even editing, you do it in a vacuum, right? It's not incredibly collaborative, at the very creative stages, and it was really fun just to have, Discord to be able to jump in with a question here and there and get,
yeah,
some of the team members who had so much experience with this, and also some of the newcomers, like, all right, let's come to a consensus here. How do we want to handle this? Because I'm seeing this and you're seeing that. And it was kind of that fun real time, collaboration and teamwork.
yeah.
And also the camaraderie, like it's games, so it's fun. So if we come across a particularly cool creature, we'd say, hey, you guys got to check this one out. Or it so again, it's not like I'm contributing, I'm changing words, I'm preserving author's voice, making edits, and submitting. It really felt like, hey, we're all in the trenches together. Hundreds of monsters. I think when all was said and done, I edited 302,
Yeah, that sounds about right.
including some of the
Yeah,
backer submitted
that's
monsters
great, man.
near the end there. So it was a lot. It really was, but it was also just kind of fun to have something to continually come back to. It'd be like,
Hmm.
okay, I'm knocking these ones out, and then you open a new writer's file and be like, all right, what do you got for me? Because I mean, I couldn't help but be inspired as I was reading these and thinking like,
Yeah.
how could I use this? Or like, oh, what would be a encounter where it'd be really cool to include something along these lines. So yeah,
Oh, yeah.
it was a lot of
That's
fun.
Oh, excellent. That's cool. And folks, for you or you that's not aware, so when I assembled the editing team, I had some pretty clear directives for them, and I wanted them to make the monsters better. And David touched on a very good point on, they needed to preserve, the feel of the monster and the author's original voice. But at the end of the day, we wanted the monsters to be cool. And not all 550 of them are going to be knock them out of the park amazing. It's just not possible. But we tried, but the editors all had some agency to be able to go in there and say, I think it would be a little bit better if we did this, or maybe we do this, or hey everybody, how can we make this a little bit better? Oh no, don't do it that way, do it this way. And I think that's what David's kind of touching on with the collaboration. And that was the awesome part about it. We were not hiring editors just to go in there, do the work, and then turn it over and then never look at it again. Like, they were getting into it, and some of them were play testing them at their tables, and that was the awesome part of it and everything. And so let's talk about that. So you were kind of inspired to then actually create your own creature, weren't you? Because you were like, I got so many cool ideas, and you're like, Chris, can I design a monster?
I did. I mean, obviously working on it, being privy to some of these, a very comprehensive look at everything that was going to go in this book. I wanted to be a part of it. I wanted to say, hey, I got something in there. Editing is great and it's a valuable contribution, but like, no, I want to put something in there. So, after editing 300 plus creatures, I thought, okay, some of these things deal just massive damage. They're possible TPK kind of, but it's like I wanted something that was maybe a little innocuous, a little bit, you wouldn't suspect it being as big of a threat. So I came up with the consuming coin. It has a respectable CR3 rating, but what I think makes it, a true threat to the parties, it hits them where they live. It essentially it's going to do irrevocable harm to the party's funds. It slowly eats any and all coins around it. So it looks like an ordinary coin, unless you really kind of take a close look at it, Who's going to really check that? You're looting, some wizard's stronghold. You're not going to look at every coin. You're going to just scoop it all, and that's what they're counting on. This is kind of a burglar buster sort of trap that kind of follows you around as a construct. And I'm a sucker for story. So I really wanted something that had some good RPing potential. And because I'm a fan of mind games, I wanted the DM to be able to play the long con. I wanted them to say, like, let's just see how long it takes before they, go to a store and realize they have half as much money as they thought they did. It just, to me, seemed like a maybe not fun for them surprise, but a fun surprise. Maybe in hindsight, a fun surprise to them, but certainly a fun surprise for the GM.
Oh, that is so cool. I love that story. And yeah, I agree. I mean, when I was going in through the development process of these monsters, the very same thing. I was getting inspired left and right. And I was like, oh, this is a cool idea. And oh yeah, this is a great idea. And I'm like, yeah, it's like, well, you can definitely do something with this. Or more like, since I saw all 500 of them, I was like, wow, this monster would work really good with this monster over
Yeah.
here. And I'm like, these two would make a really good pair and definitely work out there. So yeah,
So
that's great.
so many cool synergies, and that's even why the dungeon delves were so fun, because as an
Yes.
editor I saw so many. So when it
Yep.
came down to write those 2-page adventures, it's like, yeah, this and this, like, oh
Yep.
yep, those, and oh, if I did a little bit of a twist there, yeah. So it really kind of put me in a fun position to be able to have a lot of ideas going into that project then.
Cool. Yeah, that's awesome. So yeah. Yeah, monsters are exciting. So got any other monster concepts kicking around in your head?
I have so many. I do. I'm actually kind of working on a personal project where I'm doing a lot of world building and coming up with new sentient species of creatures, because elves, dwarfs, even humans, they're great, but what if there's a fantasy world where there's none of those? So I challenged myself to come up with, I think I'm at 11 unique sapient species. So I guess I just love making new life forms.
Oh. All right, so we're gonna go from making new life forms to how to end new life forms lives by talking about Grimtooth traps. So, first of all, my first question on that, before we get into some of the traps that you designed, do you use traps in your normal game, in your everyday games? Are traps something that are featured or not really, or where do you land on traps?
It's not my first go-to. I think I probably approach it more from like the social kind of side and investigating. But as time went on, I kind of realized, well, that can really sort of augment those types of scenarios as well. So I think recently I've really started to think about like how the environment and factors therein can complicate, investigations or turn ordinary combat into something more memorable. So I really kind of see them as, I don't necessarily design an encounter around a trap, but I think for me, it's like the icing on the cake.
Mhm.
And I tend to find myself designing and orchestrating them in a way where the person who triggers the trap isn't really the one who gets punished. I usually make it so it's the person who successfully bypassed it or someone who hasn't even had a chance. So it's like let's mess with the party a little bit more, because like, oh, thanks a lot, So I kind of, again, just trying to put like fun little twists. So it's like, yeah, you failed that, you messed it up. You're not going to pay for it, but your buddy over there probably is going to have something to say to you later.
Oh, wow, that's nice. So let's talk about one of your traps that you designed, the roulette room, which was from the original Grimtooth book, and then you got to actually bring it to 5e. So tell us a little bit about that trap. Give us a little high level view of it.
Yeah, the roulette room was a lot of fun. I'm a big fan of themes, and this one just really allowed me to kind of run with it. So it's essentially not terribly complex. There's a false chest in the middle of the room, but you open it and it's a switch, and the room just starts spinning wildly. So best case scenario, you're going to get nauseated. You lose your footing, but it's really designed to disorient you. There's a lot of doors leading into it, and now you don't know which way you came from. So it's for you know characters who think they're pretty comfortable, like, oh yeah, I know where we're going, or maybe they're on their way out, and now they perhaps are detoured and led to other places. Worst case scenario, you can even fly out of the room and doors close behind you, so you can kind of force the party to split, which always makes people nervous. So I found it really fun from a tactical side, because I think it can really take maybe a typical expected dungeon crawl and just now suddenly they're off-footed a little bit because like, oh, now we're separated, or did we come from that way? Um, so I really liked, again, sort of how that can affect story, how that can affect just the adventure as a whole. And again, the gambling theme I had a lot of fun with, coming up with a sidebar where, okay, what if this is really just one room in a casino, or a sort of evil mastermind who really just loves games of chance. So maybe this is one room, and then you go to other ones that have other sort of dangerous games inside that you have to survive, including, some poker panels that have things behind them, and a one-armed bandit that is really just a modified flesh golem. So just a lot of opportunities with that one. It was cool out of
Yeah.
the box, and I just loved being able to kind of add options for GMs to really take it as far as they want to.
And I really enjoyed your trap submissions. You took the time to make one of those sidebars. I'm gonna say for most of the traps. I'm not sure if it was every single trap. I can't remember, but you did a little fun thematic like backstory to like the trap or whatever. And we'll get to the next one, which is really kind of cool too. I really like that. It was like there was the crunchy stat part of it, but then there was the, well, why is this in existence or something like
Right,
that? And you
right.
and you did that little storytelling bit on there, and it so fits your personality of how you wanted to. You put your own spin on it. You put your own spin on the roulette wheel. Ha ha ha.
I love
So,
it.
but tell us, one of the things that we did with these traps is we actually added a section called adjusting the threat. Do you remember how you adjusted the threat on this trap?
Yeah. Again, it's a roulette room. Roulette boards spin, but they also have a giant metal ball that can
Yep.
fall and knock people around and do some fun bludgeoning damage. So yeah, that the let it ride feature adds the unlucky ball that bounces around just pummeling people. So
Yes, I love
yeah.
that. I think I enjoyed of the traps. I enjoyed many of the traps, but those adjusting the threat sidebars and seeing where people could take them, and a lot of them were actually recommended in the original books, where they
Yeah.
would just say, "Oh, hey, if you want to make this trap more deadly, throw in a bouncing metal ball." But some of them just the designers just ran wild with, how would I make this more deadly? Oh, I've got a cool idea, which was awesome. So let's quickly
Yeah.
talk about one more trap, because I said I want to give the other show starting at the top of the hour a little bit of time. So let's talk about the Achilles shield. Not so much a trap, more of a cursed item, kind of, but give us
Yeah.
the rundown on that one.
Yeah, I really liked the items. Again, kind of the going back to the consuming coin. It's something you wouldn't expect. I found, a +2 shield. Of course, I'm going to use it. Check if it's, like if you don't check to see if it's cursed, you're going to have some problems, but it's going to work well for a while. And again, that's the surprise factor. That's the you're doing just, run into a party of ogres, and you're like, yeah, we can take these guys. But you're carrying the Achilles shield and not realizing that uh, you may, in fact, roll a d20, get a 1, and instead the attack destroys your shield. You're not blocking it. No matter what they roll, they hit the sweet spot. And this
Yeah.
thing, now you lost your shield that you were depending on for the encounter. And moreover, you can adjust that one and use the Achilles shredder, where not only does the shield just crumble, it shatters and shards go flying and hit friends and foes alike. So, yeah, had just, again, it's poetic in its simplicity, right? It's like it's not
Yeah.
anything that you have to do mental, acrobatics to wrap your mind around, but I'm inspired by it. I'm like, well, why would someone had make this? Like, who's playing the
Yep.
long con on this one?
Yep.
Um, so
Enter
that's
your
what.
sidebar.
Yes, yes. So I'm like, okay, who makes an Achilles shield? Well, so I came up with, well, there's a bitter blacksmith's rebuttal. So you have this dwarf who's, would rather be, you know, again, metaphorically, we got Darwin plowshares here who'd rather be making instruments of peace and cultivation, but is being, pressed into creating weapons of war. And his only way of rebelling is creating these seemingly awesome armaments for the troops, but he's going to get his revenge by slipping in some of these Achilles shields. So again, I can't, I guess like my brain can't help it. It's like, if this exists, someone had to make it for a reason.
Yeah. Totally. And I mean, I think the book is better for it, having those little sidebars in there and
Thanks.
everything. And I love it. So, all right. Well, David, sorry to kind of rush you through that a little bit, but we're a little bit short on time. But thank you so much for coming on the show. I appreciate it much. Again, everybody, you guys are going to be seeing David's name a lot more in the upcoming months and years as he's working on more and more projects for us. So, thank you, appreciate it, and thanks for putting a smile on my face today, as you always do, and looking forward to continuing to work with you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's always fun to geek out with Goodman games, so I'm here.
Awesome. Great. Well, thanks everybody. Thanks for joining us. And in about 8 minutes, we'll be having Traps Thursday. So everybody hang on the line for that. So, and everybody have a great night. Bye.